The Euros continue this afternoon on ESPN and ESPN2 with Cristiano Ronaldo in Portugal taking on France on ESPN, then Germany squaring off against Hungary on ESPN2. Our pre-match coverage starts at 2:30 Eastern. Both matches also available on the ESPN app, one tap. Meanwhile, we got Mike Tannenbaum with us today. Stephen A. having a little fun with him yesterday. Listen to this.
You know my nickname for Mike Tannenbaum, I love him because I love him. He's a good man. I call him Mr. CIA because when he was running the Jets and I used to have to interview him, Max, you do a 15-minute interview with him and go like this. He talked a lot. He didn't tell me a damn thing. He's beautiful. I mean, Mike Tannenbaum is a pro's pro at that. I mean, talks, articulates himself, elocutes his thoughts professionally. It sounds so cogent. I mean, it's beautiful, lucid, everything. And when you try to decipher what the hell he said, he ain't say anything. That was Mike Tannenbaum when he was running the Jets and then the Miami Dolphins.
Mr. CIA. Look at Mike T. Graziano, you're nodding along. You experienced that too?
I mean, yeah, it was always a pleasure to talk to Mike, but then you go through your notes and you're like, well, he did a good job if he didn't want me to know anything about his team that he once kept secret. So, yeah, he was pretty good at that. You felt like you were getting something, but then you went through it and you're like, no, I can't really use any of that.
Did Belichick teach you that in the sauna, Mike T? Was those the conversations you were having?
Exactly. That was Coach Belichick media training 202. It was the advanced class. So it took years to get, hone my style. But yeah, I would like to say I was his prodigy as it related to that.
Say a whole lot of words and also say absolutely nothing. Good fun there, guys. And with that, we welcome you back to another hour of Get Up. Busy, as always, from above the Heineken River deck at Pier 17. We are rolling along. There's a lot of football to talk about, but that's not where it's going to start. We're getting up with a fantastic fight right to the finish in Phoenix. If you didn't stay up late and see how this one ended, you're not going to believe it. It's right off the top. Then, as we roll forward, Rodgers' most reliable teammate stands by his QB, but only to a point. We'll explain what really happened yesterday in Green Bay. And then, this was hideous. They dropped the pants and almost dropped the gloves in baseball. We'll show you why these guys were so angry as we get up with you, starting right now with the game of the night. Game of the playoffs, perhaps. Clippers-Suns, Game 2. Clips facing Devin Booker and the Suns, and this was quite a finish. 40 seconds to go. Phoenix up by 1, and up 1-zip in the series. Paul George in transition. Playoff P. Always been very good the last few nights. Clippers take a 1-point lead. Next, Phoenix, possession. Booker, a little quieter on the offensive end last night, but he knocks that one down. He had 20, needed stitches too after colliding with Pat Beverly earlier in the game. Next, Clippers, possession. George, again, working on Jay Crowder. Knocks it down. He had 26. Clippers back in front. On the other end, 10 seconds to go. Booker has it knocked out of bounds by Beverly. Ball goes out. It's called Phoenix ball. The refs would take another look, which they did a lot last night. Ultimately, it's given to the Clippers. Paul George gets fouled. A 1-point game. He missed the first, and then right there, he misses the second as well. That is still a 1-point game, so Phoenix can win it on this possession. To the corner it goes. Bridges. No, but it's out off Terrence Mann. So the Suns get one more chance with .9 remaining. What do they draw up? They draw up perfection. Can you believe it? That is Jay Crowder throwing it up. That is Devin Booker setting the screen. And that is DeAndre Ayton throwing it down for a game winner with no time remaining. Suns come back and win it 104-103. They're up 2 games to none. What a stunning finish.
Well, I'll start off by saying that's definitely Jay's game winner. Making a great pass or a 7-footer. Other than that, Coach drew up a great play where, I was in the best position. My teammates trust me and my coaches trust me. And, great Book set a great screen, that freed me up into the lane to at least gather my feet and go for the ball. And the rest is, just off my athleticism and my talent.
I guess that it was. What can you say? It is genuinely one of the most stunning final seconds that we've ever seen in the NBA playoffs, and it might change absolutely everything in the series. Legs, I'll start this hour with you. As you watch that play from both sides, tell me the most important things the fans should be thinking about.
Well, I think it starts with the fact that DeMarcus Cousins, who's on the ball, and look, it's not a bad idea to put a guy that big on the ball, but his angle of his body is just not in the proper position. You need to take away the sight line to the rim and he's in the corner basically allowing Jay Crowder to have a perfect view and a perfect angle to throw that basketball. So that's really what stood out to me from the Clippers' perspective. Also, when you look at the way it's designed, you've got a back screen set by Devin Booker, and on any screen between two players, if neither one of them have the ball, what you're hoping for is a bump by the defender of the screener. In that case, it's Nicholas Batum. The reason Batum can't bump DeAndre Ayton, he's guarding Devin Booker, and he is so worried about Devin Booker popping out to the corner, and with .9, plenty of time for a guy like Devin Booker, who's one of the best shooters in this league, to square it up and knock it down. So Batum has to hug Booker, doesn't give any help to Zubac on that little brush screen by Booker, and that's well designed by Monty Williams, that you're going to have your best offensive player set the screen in that situation for that exact reason. You know the guy guarding him cannot give help on the guy that the screen is being set for, and as a result, Zubac got hit just enough that he was not able to recover in time. And then, like I said, Jay Crowder with a perfect sight line to deliver a perfect pass. And all Ayton had to do, catch it and put it in, and he did it. And this could be the series-defining moment, because if the Clippers get a split, we're looking at a different series going forward, I believe. But now, winning 4 out of 5 against this team is a lot different than what they had to do in the last 2 rounds.
Especially with Chris Paul likely coming back for Phoenix in Game 3. Remember, they won these first 2 games without him. Kawhi's status remains very much up in the air. And PJ, I'm just looking at the smile on your face. As a lifer in the coaching profession who's called up probably literally a million plays that you have dialed up with 1 second left in games, what were you thinking as you saw that one executed to perfection?
Well, I love the way they did execute the play, but I tell you what I love was DeAndre Ayton giving credit to everybody else. He said it's Jay's play because Jay made the pass. He said it's Devin's play because he set a good screen. And he said it's Monty's play because he designed it. All I had to do was jump. Well, guess what? The jumping was still pretty good, but I love DeAndre Ayton being truthful and giving the credit to his teammates, which was, I think a great thing to hear. He's a talented young player getting better already.
So both of you guys, I want you to hear the perspective of Ryan Clark. I brought Ryan in here for this as well. No one follows the NBA more closely than he does and loves it more than he does. And he gave us an extraordinary and concise explanation of all the things that happened at the end of that game in our meeting this morning. And I want to hear you guys' reaction to it. RC, the floor is yours.
Greeny, thank you for bringing in an expert, not someone who's won a three-point contest or taking people to championships and coaching the league, someone who truly understands the game of basketball, someone who understands that Zubac can't jump over a wet hamburger bun. And so if he gets picked off and he throw the ball by the rim, he's not going to be able to get up with DeAndre Ayton, who admittedly said in his post-game press conference, it was about my athleticism in the end. Zubac don't have that. And then I had my phone sitting right behind me on this counter. My bed's way over there because I had to get up for this 5 o'clock get up meeting, and I was going to get up, walk over, and tweet about how clutch PG was being, that it was no longer pandemic P, that it was playoff P, and then he misses 2 whole free throws. And what about the rules, guys? Timmy, what about the rules? PJ, what about the rules? Do you know why Monty got to draw up that great play? Because they had a timeout. Because the last 2 minutes of the game took 2.5 hours. That's why I'm hoarse now. That's why I'm sleepy. So he gets a timeout, draws up a great play, and he says, hey, DeAndre, you know what? If they throw it by the rim, you got to, dunk it. And what does he do? He dunks it. And for me, it's not just about the last play, guy. It's about the last 2 minutes.
There you go. There you go, Timmy Legler. That's the voice of the fan. What do you think?
Yeah, look, he's right. I mean, there were so many stoppages, PJ and Ryan, in the last 2 minutes of the game. You could have, forget drawing up an out-of-bounds play, you could have put in a whole new offense if you wanted to, that they've never even seen before. They had so much time. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't take them over to the practice court and walk through some stuff.
They may have legs
to get that done.
They
now,
might have
PJ,
done
you were
that.
making a very important point about that to me before the show today, about the way that people coach games and how this is not just frustrating to watch, but there is actually an impact. I'd love you to make that point.
Well, it used to be part of the art of coaching, if you will, was to hoard your timeouts till the end of the game. I mean, if you got to the end of the game and you didn't have a timeout, that fell on you. And sometimes you're making these decisions first quarter, second quarter, the other team's on a run. You would feel good as a coach and your team would love it if you got to the end of the game and you had a timeout. Well, that art of coaching is out the window now because of the reviews. It doesn't matter if you had to use all your timeouts. You're kind of gifted extra ones. You can't count on them being there, but there was enough of them there last night. It was unbelievable. I mean, even a football guy could have understood what you were talking in the timeout and executed in that situation.
That is very well said. Guys, outstanding. Thank you, Legs. BJ, much more from you as we continue. Meanwhile, RC, let's talk about the big story from football, and that is this, the standoff between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers continuing this week. One of Rodgers' closest teammates, Davante Adams, spoke to Fox News about Rodgers' absence and how his team is handling it. And here's what he said. Davante Adams said, "I'll be there and I'll be ready to rock. Hopefully Aaron will be there as well. And if he's not, we're going to get going. Like I said in the press recently, I back him and I support him, whatever he does. It's just kind of how we get down. We've always had each other's back since we first got here. But like I said, praying that he comes back. But if not, I'll be there and I'll be working." And Dan Graziano, my insider, that's just sort of the way the Packers have viewed this from the beginning, right? We hope he comes back, but the football team doesn't stop working if he's not.
Right, and that's how they've gone through their entire offseason to this point. The OTAs, the mandatory mini camps, as many reps as possible for Jordan Love in case he's the one that has to take over. The Packers would like Aaron Rodgers back. They've tried, they've made it clear, but they are aware that it's possible he chooses not to come back, and they have to prepare for their season accordingly. Davante Adams and the other receivers skipped voluntary work earlier this offseason, presumably in support of Aaron Rodgers, but they're back now for the mandatory part of it, and they plan to be back for training camp. So they're all on board. It's just a matter of whether Aaron Rodgers decides he wants to show up and be a part of it or not.
That is what it's starting to feel like, RC. So going all the way back to when on draft day, Shefty reported the stuff about Aaron Rodgers, you and I and many others believed, okay, here we go. The Packers are going to trade him. They've done nothing and they don't have to do anything. So it really is going to be his move. Is he going to be willing to take this all the way? What do you, RC, knowing him as you do, what do you think?
I think he is. I think Aaron Rodgers just dug in. When you listen to a guy on a call that's extremely public and you listen to that guy say, you know what, it's been kind of cool to be a quarterback and not have responsibilities and move around in the offseason as I please. This isn't a dude that's longing to be back in Lambeau. This isn't someone who just can't wait to be in Wisconsin. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is dug in because this is personal. There isn't a way to work this out through contract. There isn't a way to apologize. There is no owner that says, you know what, we'll get rid of GM Brian Gutekunst. That's what you need, Mr. MVP, to come back and play for us. And when I listen to Davante Adams, I hear two things. The first thing I hear is, you know what? I'm going to play. I'm going to be here. I'm going to do the work that I've always done. The second thing I hear is him saying, you know what, Aaron, I want you to know that you're my boy. And me doing all of these other things, me coming and play, has nothing to do with you, just with me doing your job, my job. I have your back. I love you. Make your own decision. And I believe that decision is going to be to stay home.
I do as well. Mike T., when you hear Davante Adams' words, what do you think?
I'm gravely concerned if I'm Green Bay, and here's why. It's becoming more and more real that his teammates don't believe he's going to show up. To RC's point, it's giving great insight into their mindset, and that is a minimum of a 6-game differential. Blake Bortles, Jordan Love, they trade for Gardner Minshew. They're going to lose 6 games or more without Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. So this is a mindset into what they're going to be dealing with all summer until if he shows up at all.
We will see. The next inflection point, as we've said repeatedly, when training camp begins, is Aaron Rodgers there or not? The ball right now is in his court. We will take a short time out. We're just getting rolling for this hour. Coming up, Big Ben will walk into the Hall of Fame. Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches ever. Will they be enough to salvage a Steelers season? We'll ask that question and get the answers. Plus, the second night of baseball checking pitchers got quite revealing. You've got everything you need to see from a hot night on the diamond as we continue Get Up this morning. And we've got this. It is time for a little sneaky hembo head-to-head with Graziano. After the Steelers, which NFL team has the next longest active streak of non-losing seasons? That's the question. The answer is next. Graziano head-to-head with Hembo. Get up on ESPN.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. And I bet it can be hard work. You know it's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Back on Get Up, back with Sneaky, Hembo, and Graziano. So, Danny Graz, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a streak of 17 consecutive non-losing seasons. Which NFL team has the second longest active streak?
It's a good one, Greeny, because I don't think it's anywhere near 17, but you go, I think back, Pete Carroll had a losing record his first year in Seattle. Oddly enough, they won the division title. I don't think he's had one since. I'm going to guess the Seattle Seahawks.
He got it again. That's correct again. My goodness, Graziano was unbelievable at this. It is 9 consecutive seasons. The Chiefs are next at 8, the Titans and the Ravens at 5, and it is Graziano up by 5
goodness.
on Hembo.
Look at that.
7-22. I have noticed on Twitter, people bet on these things. They wager on who's going to win on a given day between Graziano and Hembo. So congratulations to all of you who cashed your ticket today on Danny Graz. Meanwhile, burning questions from the upcoming NFL season. RC, I'm starting with you. What is your burning question about the NFC South?
Is there a Sean Payton without Drew Brees? I mean, we saw Sean Payton have to take a year off of what the New Orleans Saints are. Now we see them without Drew Brees. He's won 8 games without him starting in the last 2 years. But what happens when it's an entire season? What happens when the team has film on you and knows who you'll be with Jameis or Taysom? I'm interested in seeing Sean Payton be the offensive guru he's always been without Drew Brees now.
That's a really good one. Danny Graz, looking at the AFC East, Graziano, what's your burning question?
Can Tua Tagovailoa be good enough that the Dolphins challenge the Bills atop the AFC East? A lot of talk about can the Patriots get back in it. The Dolphins were right in it last year. If Tagovailoa can take a big next step, then Miami's a strong contender in that division.
I agree with that one, too. Mike T., how about you? AFC North is your division. What's your burning question?
Can Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger save the Pittsburgh Steelers and keep that streak going of non-losing seasons? Mike Tomlin's been there since 2007. If they can do it this year, he should be the coach of the year, maybe the coach of the decade, because it's an aging, decrepit team, especially on offense.
Well, and so let me bring in Ryan Clark, who obviously you played there, you won championships in Pittsburgh, and you're very close to Tomlin and to some of the players who are still there. I think there is an overwhelming feeling that that streak is in serious jeopardy of coming to an end here. What is your perspective? Do you think that we do see that streak end? Do the Steelers finally have a losing season?
You know, I hope not. I feel like the NFL has a conspiracy against the Pittsburgh Steelers and said, you know what? They can no longer be 8-8. 500 is no longer good enough. You got to win 9. And so now we have an issue. And that's what's going on. But when you look at Mike Tomlin and what he's been able to do, it's been absolutely remarkable. What he was able to do with Duck Hodges, with Mason Rudolph, without having Ben Roethlisberger a few years ago. But I believe that this year is going to be more difficult. If Ben can't push the ball down the field, if you can't move the line of scrimmage, if you aren't able to protect him as an aging quarterback who can't necessarily do some of the things from a mobility standpoint that he used to do, I believe that's going to be trouble. And when you look at this division, the Cleveland Browns are better, the Baltimore Ravens are better. So this is clearly the third best team in the AFC North. So what can they do in those tight games and those close moments? Can Ben Roethlisberger pull it out? That'll be the difference between a winning season and a losing one.
To me, and yesterday I wanted to make the pick 8-1, RC, just so they can continue to be 500. It occurred to me you could theoretically do that. If I wanted to play devil's advocate here, I could say if they find a way to put together the offensive line, Dan Graziano, and I know that's a big if because they lost pieces and it was bad already. But with the draft of Najee Harris and a defense that is excellent, I mean, it's not good, it's an elite caliber defense.
Yeah.
With Roethlisberger and his experience and the good coaching, if they can get offensive line play, and Dan Graziano, I know it's a big if, I think we would look past them at our own peril.
Yeah, right, because it's a bad bet to bet against Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger historically. It's why I have so much admiration for Mike Tannenbaum and his conviction that this is actually a terrible team. I don't know that it is a terrible team, but I do think it's a team that's going to struggle. It's got a first-place schedule, right? By the end of last year, it was not a first-place caliber team. Finished first because of the 11-0 start. They're going to have to play some really, really tough teams, and I think they're going to have a difficult time given how obvious it became to opponents late last year that they could figure out their offense.
Go ahead, Mike T. Final word.
Yeah, I admire the Rooney family for bringing Ben Roethlisberger back, but that's based on loyalty, not what he's going to do. They're paying him for what he's done, and that's my biggest concern. I just think he's an aging player that's going to get worse, not better. And with a new center, especially losing Pouncey, I think it's going to be really hard for this offense to function at a high level.
Yeah, that to me is the biggest question mark. Can they get offensive line play? If they do with Najee Harris in that defense, you never know if Mike T doesn't figure out a way to work some miracles. Not our Mike T, but the other Mike T. Meanwhile, let me get you to baseball last night. This was insanity. I mean, what's going on now with the sticky stuff in baseball? 2 nights ago, there was nothing. Last night, there were fireworks. That's Max Scherzer, his first start since June 11th, and he is good. There he is, first inning. He strikes out JT Realmuto, and now he's being checked. And you could just see the body language. He doesn't like it, right? But what can he do? This is the new rule in baseball. Bottom of the third, he's going to get Bryce Harper swinging, and as he walks off, he is going to get checked again by the umpires. Now Scherzer starting to heat up. And then bottom of the fourth, this thing explodes. Scherzer is going to strike out Alec Boehm right there. And Joe Girardi in the opposing dugout is going to ask the umpires to check Scherzer again. And now Scherzer loses it. The hat's on the ground. The glove's on the ground. The belt is unbuckled. He's yelling, and you can read his lips. I got nothing. I got nothing. As the search continues, Davey Martinez comes out to argue. Now he and Joe Girardi are shouting across the diamond at each other. After the search, ultimately, Scherzer looks over to the Phillies bench, and he's like, my hair is wet. Now, 5th inning, Scherzer's out there with a new hat, of all things. He strikes out Realmuto again, and as he walks off, he's staring down Joe Girardi. So what does Girardi do? He wants a piece of him. He's coming out of the dugout. Girardi gets thrown out, trying to create an issue, or at least to continue an issue, with Max Scherzer. It's nuts. Scherzer's showing you, I got nothing here. Ultimately, he and the Nationals win it by a score of 3-2. Not the best look all the way around. Joe Girardi, what happened?
I've seen Max a long time, since 2010. Obviously, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I've never seen him wipe his head like he was doing tonight, ever. Going like this, right? So it was suspicious for me. He did it about 4 or 5 times. I didn't mean to offend anyone. I just got to do what's right for our club.
Well, it seems that some offense was taken. Meanwhile, Oakland's pitcher Sergio Romo also didn't like the substance check. Here we go. The belt is off and the pants are down. That's pretty much a metaphor for the entire look of this thing last night in baseball. By the way, Romo and the A's would beat Texas 13-6. As we roll on, Devin Booker and the Suns got knocked down, but Phoenix rose up when it mattered most. Are we seeing the future of the NBA right now? We'll answer that question next.
Hey everyone, this is Zach Lowe. Check out my podcast, The Low Post, where I talk to people in and around the NBA about everything going on in the basketball world. The one and only Nikola Jokic, the most watchable, telegenic player in the NBA. Players, trends, under the radar teams, everything. I am a long-time holder of all the Devin Booker stock I can buy, and I'm not cashing it in because I think he's going to keep getting better. Listen and subscribe to The Low Post wherever you listen to podcasts.
We are back on Get Up, and if you missed it, it was the game of the night last night, Game 2 of the conference finals, and it was spectacular. Clippers-Suns, what a finish. 40 seconds left. The Suns are up by 1, and here comes Paul George. Playoff P, taking it strong, giving the Clippers a 1-point lead in the final half minute. Next, Suns possession. Devin Booker, a little quiet on the offensive end, but knocks that one down 2 of his 20. Also needed stitches after colliding with Pat Beverly earlier. Next, Clips possession. It's George again. They've been riding him, and it's been working. Knocks this one down over Jay Crowder. 26 points for Paul George. A 1-point Clipper lead. 10 seconds left. On the other end, Booker has the ball knocked out of bounds. It goes out. It's called Phoenix ball. The refs would take another look, which they would do a lot of last night. They then give it to the Clippers, so they have to foul Paul George. He missed the first, and now he misses the second. So it's a 1-point Clippers lead. with 8 seconds left. Ball's going to find the corner. It's Bridges, and Bridges, it's blocked by Terrence Mann, and it's out off him. So 0.9 seconds remaining, and again, here is the play they'll be talking about forever. Jay Crowder throws it up. Devin Booker sets the screen. DeAndre Ayton throws it down, and the Suns come back and win it 104-103. An extraordinary finish and an unbelievable win. What has to be just a devastating defeat for the Phoenix Suns last night. And Tim Leggs has been with us all morning long. And Timmy, before we get to some other things, for those just joining us again, just take us through that play, the perfection of the execution and the mistake or two that were made on the other side.
Yeah, so let's talk about, first of all, I want to set it up by saying the misfortune that the Clippers had on the miss by Bridges. The ball takes a very strange carom. It doesn't go up in the air at all once it hits the rim, and that allows them extra time because the game could have ended if it kicks up in the air. Now, secondly, the play. This screen design is designed to set the screen, and then Booker obviously is going to pop out after that if it's not open. Why that's so important, if you're Nicholas Batum, you're put on Devin Booker for a reason. You're 6'8", you're long. You know that Devin Booker will not have enough time to take a dribble. It's going to be a catch and shoot, so you want extra length on him. He's also terrified to bump DeAndre Ayton real quick because that's going to give Booker enough time to escape. So if you look at where Nicholas Batum is positioned, he's like on the outside of the lane waiting for Booker to come to him. No bump on Ayton. That's impossible for Zubac to be able to take that screen and react and get up there and stop it. He does a pretty good job overall. He's just not quite athletic enough to get up there. And then the final component, look at DeMarcus Cousins. You know, where he's lined up, he's taking the pass away that's like up the sideline to the three-point line. That's the exact pass you want to allow to happen in that situation. You can't give the out-of-bounds passer a direct sight line to the rim. And yet that's exactly what Jay Crowder had. Now, it doesn't mean it's an easy pass to make because he could have hit the side of the backboard. He could have hit the rim. There's a lot of things that could have gone wrong. So he threw a perfect ball. There's no question. But it's not possible if DeMarcus Cousins turns his body slightly and puts his arms in the air to prevent Jay Crowder from throwing a direct bullet at the rim the way that he did. So an awful lot had to go right for the Suns, and the Clippers contributed to it without question.
And so the result of it is a 2-0 Phoenix lead in this Western Conference final, and the likelihood that Chris Paul comes back to play for them in Game 3, which would lead one to believe. Now, the Clippers have come from love 2 down in each of the first 2 rounds, but this is a different beast. Do you feel like the Suns are in total control here?
Yeah, this is maybe a series-defining moment. It really is. You know, between the missed free throws that led to it and the execution on that play. Because this is a different team than what they faced. You know, Utah had a problem because they had Rudy Gobert on the floor. He had no one to guard for long stretches. They're bombing him out from the three-point line, and Gobert is not good enough offensively to make you pay on the other end. DeAndre Ayton is. So if you want to play a small lineup, that's okay. DeAndre Ayton's going to go down there and go 22 for 29 from the field in 2 games, and that's going to continue. So now they've got an answer for that. Okay, yeah, it's going to be hard for Ayton at times to guard these guys at the three-point line, but on the other end, he's going to punish you. So they've got an answer there. They've obviously got great guard play, and they've gotten 2 wins without Chris Paul, and now you get them back. So 2 guards that can take over the game, and then just great role players up and down. Cameron Payne now has stepped up. Jay Crowder, great addition. Bridges has stepped up this year. Saric was great last night. So their acceptance of roles, they're a complete team. They play both ends. It definitely feels like possibly an insurmountable situation now for the Clippers.
The X factor in it all is Kawhi Leonard, who has not been ruled out for the Clippers, but I don't think there's great optimism that he's going to come back. Meanwhile, while I have you, let me ask you about a few other things. 76ers general manager Daryl Morey yesterday was talking about the future of his team and the future of Ben Simmons, and this is what Daryl said.
We have a very strong group we believe in. None of us can predict the future of what's going to happen in any place. We love what Ben brings. We love what Joel brings. We love what Tobias brings. In terms of what's next, we're going to do what's best for the 76ers to give us the best chance to win the championship with every single player on the roster.
So that is your classic non-response response. What do you think, Tim Legler? Are they we've had a lot of people, including Magic Johnson, say he needs a fresh start. What do you think should happen?
I just think it's hard to imagine that he's back because I think he has deflated their team. He's deflated their other star player. His inability right now to process how to be an aggressive scorer, because I think he's got a fear of failure that needs to be addressed. That might involve a sports psychologist. He's got to unlock his ability to let his muscle memory take over, and he's not. His mind is interrupting that process, and I think his teammates recognize it now. So really hard for me to imagine that he can go back to that team. He's got a lot of value in this league, but I just don't know if it can be here, because I think for the first time, Greeny, all of the things that he does aren't outweighing his inability to contribute as a scorer when you need him. To go 5 games in a 7-game series and not take a shot in the fourth quarter and you're a starting point guard is just, it's an impediment you can't get past if you're the Sixers and if you're Joel Embiid. So I do think ultimately Ben Simmons is going to end up somewhere else. And I do think there's going to be teams out there willing to give up quite a bit because he can maybe have a different role on a different team where the scoring's not as important because they've got guys to do that and handle the ball. And he could just defend, rebound, and make plays as a 4-man, which I think is what he needs to be going forward.
It does, 4-man. It does set up to be the biggest story of the upcoming NBA offseason. Tim Legler, outstanding. Thanks for getting up with us all morning long here. Meanwhile, I turn my attention back to the NFL and our crew. And let's go on the clock with some of our guys. And Dan Graziano, I'm starting with you. I've got a question for you. Who's your pick for comeback player of the year? Dan Graziano, 30 seconds. Go.
Greeny, I'm going with Saquon Barkley, running back for the New York Giants, coming off that ACL tear. We've heard a lot of talk from the Giants about how they're going to take it slow with Saquon. I think that's true to some extent, but I also think they're trying to lower expectations. He's still their best player when healthy. He got hurt early enough last season that a full recovery is not unreasonable. Better offensive players around him than he's ever had at any point in his career, but I think the offense still runs through him, and I think he has got a chance to have a monster year.
Big season contractually as well, so all that worth keeping an eye on. I like it. RC, next. Which quarterback is under the most pressure this season, in your opinion? 30 seconds. Go.
I'm going with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, to me, is in that Sam Darnold type place from last year. It's his year to prove it. You go out, you get a tight end, you get a wide receiver. Saquon Barkley is coming back healthy. You have to stop the turnovers and start the production. If you're Daniel Jones, what you don't want is to be talked about like Ben Simmons. Have your GM say he can't predict the future. Or Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if people will be alive this weekend, because whenever people start talking about you like that, you will shortly be gone.
I had forgotten that one. All right, that made me laugh. That's 2 Giants that we had back-to-back there. Mike T, I'm coming to you. Which non-quarterback is under the most pressure this season? 30 seconds, go.
John Gruden, the head coach of the Raiders. When he went back for his second stint, we all had massive expectations. In 3 seasons, John Gruden does not have a winning record with the Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders. And moving the story forward, he has to wake up and look at Patrick Mahomes and a budding superstar in the division in Justin Herbert. I think it's an uphill climb, and based on where they've been and where they're going to go, he's under enormous pressure to at least deliver a winning season.
I'm with that. And Herbert and Mahomes, and who knows, maybe a year from now, Aaron Rodgers in Denver. So things get more and more complicated in that AFC West. As we continue here in just a moment, 2 major stories this week. Both of them could change college football forever. We'll explain in just a moment. It's Get Up on ESPN.
Hey, this is Adrian Wojnarowski. Check out my podcast, The Woj Pod, with insight and analysis on the top stories in the NBA.
Adrian Wojnarowski, our insider extraordinaire.
Reaction to breaking news.
This is the latest Woj bomb.
And in-depth conversations with some of the biggest names in the league.
Thanks, Woj. Do it again.
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Woj. Appreciate you having me on.
Listen and subscribe to the Woj Pod wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you didn't stay up late last night, here's what you missed. Here's your wake-up call, courtesy of Mike Green.
There's 9/10 remaining. Crowder will inbound. Cousins waving his arms. Crowder looking, throws it alley. Oh! Ayton puts it down! He puts it down. It's over. Suns win game 2.
Talking about it all morning long. Meanwhile, talking about this too. The SEC has won 11 of the past 15 national championships in college football. This year, Alabama has the best odds of any team in the country to do it. Meanwhile, after an epic 2019, LSU had a rough 2020, now sitting 30-1 to win it all. What will 2021 hold for the Tigers? Here's Heather Dinich with that answer.
In 2019, quarterback Joe Burrow and the LSU Tigers steamrolled their way through one of the most jaw-dropping, undefeated seasons in college football history. A 15-0 record that included a record 7 AP top 10 wins and a national title. That glory faded as quickly as the celebratory cigar smoke in the Tigers' locker room.
LSU sits on the throne of college football.
A 5-5 finish in 2020, coupled with external investigations into the university's mishandling of sexual misconduct allegations, put the spotlight on LSU for all of the wrong reasons. The success of the football program once helped mask more serious off-field issues. Now it's all under repair. LSU opens its season September 4th at UCLA with simmering pressure surrounding Ed Orgeron. There's also a hunger within the program to prove 2020 was the anomaly, not 2019. LSU returns its entire starting offensive line and a veteran defensive line that should be the heart of the team. LSU's football fate will be determined by finding a reliable starting quarterback and 2 new coordinators who have never called plays at this level.
An interesting situation, and again, we've just lost our connection with Ryan Clark, whom we wanted to get, obviously, the LSU Tiger with his reaction, and hopefully we'll get him back in just a moment here. But Heather, you do paint the picture of a team and a program sort of in a moment of flux. It could go one way or the other, and it's hard to know which way it's going to be.
It is, and I spoke with Ed Orgeron last week. I think they could be a top 25 team. He's very confident, but I asked him about the expectations and the pressure on him. And Greeny, he told me there is nobody in this country that needs to tell me about LSU's expectations. I grew up with them. He said, I understand them and I invite them. So he's very excited about the talent he has coming back on this roster. I think he thinks he made good coaching hires. They have to be better on defense. He says they will be, and to me, that is probably one of the biggest keys in them coming back and really contending in the SEC again.
All right, so again, we would technology is what it is. This is TV in 2021. We've lost Ryan Clark for the moment, so we'll get his perspective on it another time. In the meantime, Heather, I wanted to get your insight and reporting on the other 2 enormous college football stories that are out there. Earlier this week, the Supreme Court deciding unanimously that the NCAA cannot enforce rules limiting education-related benefits that colleges offer to student athletes. That ruling will help determine whether schools decide to offer athletes tens of thousands of dollars in those benefits. But Heather, the point that you made with us yesterday is that really is just the tip of the iceberg. The question is whether this ultimately turns into your true pay for play, whether college football players and collegiate athletes will start to get paid for playing. And you were yesterday covering these decision makers in college football who were dealing with other issues, but I know they were talking about that. What did you hear from them?
Well, one person I spoke with was Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick, and he's got an attorney's mind. I asked him what he thought about it, and he said that he's never been a fan of the defense of amateurism. He said that language that you heard yesterday from Brett Kavanaugh, the justice who wrote the concurring opinion, he said we deserved that, basically. He said nobody ever said, gee, I think the babysitter would have a better experience if we didn't pay them. There's no incentive there. So it was something that everyone is trying to get their arms around, to be perfectly honest with you. Gordon Gee, the West Virginia, said that being a university president right now is getting a 1,000-piece puzzle on your doorstep every single morning, and every single morning it's changing, and this is another piece of it.
Right, and so we'll see where that winds up going. Again, the next case that comes to the Supreme Court, the precedent has been set here. We'll see if this keeps moving, but it'll move slowly, as does the expansion of the college football playoff situation. So again, quickly on that, that's what you were there in Dallas to cover, and does it feel as though the expansion to 12 teams in the playoff, as though that is moving forward as expected?
Yes, everything is moving forward as expected, but it was important that the 11 presidents and chancellors supported it because it's not going anywhere without their support. And so by that happening yesterday, it gives the commissioners permission to turn around now and do the nitty-gritty work to figure out how and when it would actually be implemented. The key conversations are with the bowl executives. Because of those contracts, TV executives. They will meet again on September 28th. We should know a lot more then.
We will obviously, you'll be covering that for us nonstop. Heather, outstanding. Thank you so much as always. In the meantime, it was a very sticky night in Major League Baseball, and I use that word advisedly, but there were more of these situations. We showed you earlier in the hour, Joe Girardi calling for Max Scherzer to be checked for substances last night as the Nats and Phils had some bad blood, and then A's pitcher Sergio Romo literally dropping his pants to show umpires he wasn't hiding anything. So we had madness with all of that, and then we have badness for the Mets. That's Marcus Stroman, one of the bets. He's the second best starter they have, candidly. He exits the game in the second inning with a sore left hip. So they keep a close eye on that. He'll undergo further testing. The Mets would lose by a score of 3-0. And then there's Tampa Bay's Wander Franco, considered by pretty much everyone to be the best prospect in minor league baseball, making his major league debut in style last night with a 3-run homer and a double. Rays would lose, though, to the Red Sox 9-5 in 11. And tonight on ESPN, we got a lot of baseball for you. Another college and major league doubleheader starts in Omaha, 7 Eastern, elimination game between Stanford and Vandy. Then out to Petco Park for the series finale between Mookie Betts and the Dodgers and Fernando Tatis Jr. and the Padres. All the action coming your way tonight here on ESPN. Coming up, the Valley went crazy with the Suns' game-winning shot, but the most excited man of all may have been Jalen Rose, and we'll show you exactly why next.
Scott Van Pelt here. If you haven't checked out the podcast SV Pod, what are you waiting for? We're like right directly in the flight path for helicopters flying in and out of DC. Otis the dog barking at deliveries. High-level intellectual conversation. Some gambling talk, talking with athletes, celebrities, musicians, and more. Also, we got my guy Stanford Steve riding shotgun, trying to keep me out of the ditches. Download and subscribe to SV Pod wherever you get your podcast. We certainly appreciate it. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Get Up is brought to you by Popeye's Chicken Sandwich. Don't miss our coverage of the Euros continuing today on ESPN and ESPN2. Slovakia takes on Spain on ESPN. First place Sweden squares off against Poland on ESPN2. Our pre-match coverage starts at 11:30 Eastern. Then you got Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal taking on France on ESPN. Germany-Hungary on ESPN2. Our pre-match coverage begins 2:30 Eastern. All the matches also available on the ESPN app. One app, one tap. Coming up on First Take in just a few minutes, how much of the Suns' amazing win actually falls on Paul George? Plus, do the Hawks need to steal a game in Milwaukee this week to have any chance of making the finals? Stephen A., Max, and Molly getting into that and more. Top of the hour right here on ESPN. Meanwhile, on Planet Earth is brought to you by Whole Foods. How about Tom Brady talking trash on the putting green yesterday? Watch.
Bryson, this is for you. Aaron, this one's for you. Phil, it's gonna be us all day. Get used to seeing this. Let's go.
Tom Brady talking trash there, and he was talking trash on the shop. You've seen by now the clip where he's hanging out with LeBron and those guys and talking about his free agency, and he says, one of the teams, they weren't interested at the very end. I was thinking, you're sticking with that guy? That's Tom Brady. All of a sudden, Ryan Clark, who is this? Who is this? Tom Brady, the Patriot way. Who is this guy?
Man, this the dude Tom Brady's always wanted to be, Greeny. This is what he wanted to get to. See, he was under the restraints of being with Bill Belichick. He was brainwashed in the sauna like Mike Tannenbaum. But now he is free. Now he is part of the real world. His coach has a Super Bowl tattoo. This is what Tom Brady is finally on his Muhammad Ali stuff. He's the greatest of all time, and he is letting us know. And I'm happy. The dude actually looks like he enjoys life. Before, it was about being picked in the 6th round, becoming the GOAT in all football. Now we get to see his true superstar, Super Bowl, Hall of Fame personality, and I am enjoying it.
What do you think of it, Graziano?
When you have a guy that can casually boast and brag because no one can really argue with it. At the Super Bowl last year, he was doing a Zoom press conference and he was talking about it. And he said, talking into a box instead of with people in front of me, that makes it feel different than the other 9. And you're sitting here thinking, yeah, this is his freaking Super Bowl. I mean, like, what are you going to say to something like that? But he's just sitting there just being the greatest and enjoying it in a way that I think any of us would wish we would act if we were in a similar position.
The other 9. Mike T, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I got to thank RC. Anytime that Mike Tannenbaum and Tom Brady are mentioned in the same sentence, it's a good day for me. So, RC, I appreciate you. But in all seriousness, there is a great axiom that applies here, which is the quarterback takes on the personality of the head coach. And look, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady made historic music together for decades. But clearly, this is a lot of Bruce Arians we're seeing, and it's great. It's very authentic, and it's very entertaining.
All right, fair enough. Speaking of entertainment.
Here's the other thing. One thing, Greeny, before we go, Greeny, Dan made a great point. It only sounds like Tom Brady is bragging because none of us have done the things that he's done. He truly is just telling us the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one has ever done what he's done. Quick finish here. Let me show you Jalen last night. The pride of Detroit, Michigan. That's his reaction last night in the arena when the Pistons got the first pick in the draft lottery last night. He seems to be standing at the bar. And is he? And there he was. The Pistons get the first pick in the draft. They got a lot of good young talent. They got to get Cade Cunningham now, it would appear. And so Jalen, the pride of Detroit, was excited for it. Guys, thanks for getting up today. Thank you for getting up with us. We'll see you back in Better Than Ever tomorrow. First Take starts now.
Hey everyone, this is Zach Lowe. Check out my podcast, The Lowe Post, where I talk to people in and around the NBA about everything going on in the basketball world. The one and only Nikola Jokic, the most watchable, telegenic player in the NBA. Players, trends, under the radar teams, everything. I am a long-time holder of all the Devin Booker stock I can buy. And I'm not cashing it in because I think he's going to keep getting better. Listen and subscribe to The Lowe Post wherever you listen to podcasts.